Welcome students. Today we are starting the second chapter of history, class 9, French Revolution. This chapter is very important from study point of view. Now why history is important now? History is very important and this chapter is particularly very important for the students who are studying in 9th and 10th. Here, we are living in a democratic country. It means we are living in a country where the people rule themselves through their elected representatives. And we want this system to continue and we want this system to develop. It means we want the sustenance and the development of democracy, and that we can do only when we know the birth of democracy. So French Revolution was such an event in the world history where we can say that to some extent the democracy was born. France was the first country where the people started to live under a democratic rules, a democratic regime. And this birth of democracy was very tumultuous. It was with lots of chaos and violence and all that. So we need to study the birthplace of democracy and the birth situations of democracy so that we can develop. So this is the very small introduction or base that why do we need to study this chapter. So let's come to the chapter and we'll see what are we going to study in this chapter. Number one thing that we're going to see is Storming of Bastille. It's a very important event. We may say that in the world history, not only in France, in the world history of democracy, the Storming of Bastille is a very landmark or significant event that happened on 14th of July 1789, and we'll see the importance of this event. Apart from that, we'll see coronation, Rajyabhishek of King Louis XVI. That's also important because he was the king when the French Revolution took place, and we also see that what challenge he had when he became the king. He was a very poor king. He was the king of one of the powerful and richest countries, but the poorest of the king maybe at that time. So why his French treasury was empty when he became the king? All these three things we are going to study in the first video. So let us start. If you want, you can close your eyes and just listen to the story, or better, you should keep your eyes open and listen to my story and follow what comes on your screen, so that you should be able to both read and listen at the same time. Audio and visual, both the things will go hand in hand. Now it was a normal day, maybe the day you woke up, but let us go back to the past. Where we're going? 14th of July 1789. Whatever is the date today, think that it's 14th of July 1789 and you are a French person, you are living in France, and it's a normal day. The day dawn, normal day came up, you woke up and the people are nervous, people are worried. There's some reason that the people are worried about. And what did they see? When it is maybe 10, 11, 12 o'clock, whatever time, the people are not on the street. The streets are empty, the streets are deserted, and the people are worried, and they may be worried about something. We'll discuss why were they worried about. And they can see the soldiers marching on the streets with their weapons, and the king had ordered the troops. King called the troops in the city of Paris, and the soldiers were marching all over the streets, and the people were worried, and there was a rumor, and the people talking to each other that king not only called the soldiers, but king at any time may order the troops to open fire on the people. Any time king ordered the troops to attack, fire on the people. And the people hate at the time. The situation was the people disliked their king, they hated their king. There's some reason. The reason was, we'll discuss later. And so people now could not bear it, so they decided to fight with the king. And those common people of Paris, they made their own army, and that we can call it a people's militia, public army. They came together, some 7,000 persons, and of course among them not only were the men, some were of the women, and those 7,000 men and women came together and they created their own army, people's army, that is people's militia. And who was their enemy? Their enemy was the king. And with whom they had to fight? They had to fight to the soldiers, the people, the troops to whom the king had called on the streets. But the people's militia is of no use. It's useless. Why? Because the people's militia did not have weapon, and the soldiers, armies means weapon, and they needed weapons desperately, but they did not have the weapons, and they could not fight with a stake and a broomstick or some other domestic tools. They needed weapons, but there was a place where there were weapons, and that place was in France itself. Now they needed to attack on that building where the weapons were kept, and if they attack that building and capture all the weapons, so they will be in the position to fight with the king's army, and that weapon was were kept in Bastille, a fortress prison. What is a fortress prison? It was a building which was like a fort, and which was served as a prison. The deadly enemies of the king were kept there. Whoever the king thought that were his enemies, he arrested them, tortured them, and kept them in Bastille. And people also believe that, they thought that king's army used to keep their weapons in Bastille. Bastille was not only a fortress prison, but also an armory where the king used to keep his weapons. So if they attack Bastille, they would get the weapons and they will be in a condition to fight with the king's army. And again, there was one more importance, was that Bastille was not only a building, it was not only a fortress prison, it was the symbol of king's despotic power. It was the symbol of king's uncontrolled power. If they are able to break open the Bastille, if they could enter into the Bastille, violating all the securities, and if they destroy the security of the Bastille, it would be as if they have defeated the king. So Bastille is not only a source of weapon, could also attack on king's ego. They could have defeated the king. So they people, 7,000 men and women. Again I'm saying men and women. I'll tell you later why. Again I'm repeating the word women again and again. So these 7,000 people made the people's militia attack on Bastille, hoping that they'll get the ammunitions there. So obviously there was a fight between the people and the guards, and they fought, and the guard, which was of course, Bastille was an important place, and the main guard, chief security guard of that Bastille could be a very close person to the king. He was killed. People killed him. People entered into the Bastille, but unfortunately they did not get any weapon there. Of course, there were 7 people arrested and kept, and they were the enemy of the king. It means they may be the supporters of the common people. So people released those 7 men, but unfortunately people did not get any kind of good weapons there. So out of anger, people not only destroyed but demolished it. Demolish means पूरा जमीन दोस्त कर दिया, उसको पूरी तरह destroy कर दिया. It was disappeared from the land. The Bastille was that happened. And where the rubble, Malba, where the rubble had gone, people had carried with them the stone pieces, the bricks of Bastille with them, as a souvenir that once they had defeated the king. Even those rubbles, bricks, stone, bricks pieces of Bastille was sold in the market. People used to keep them as a souvenir. लोग इस बात की निशानी अपने साथ रखना चाहते थे कि हमने किंग को हराया है. It was a matter of pride for the common people that they have defeated the king. That all that happened on 14th of July 1789, and this event is known as the Bastille. Let's see some another importance of this. Same something, I may repeat it again. It was the Bastille. It was a symbol of king's despotic power. A राजा की अनियंत्रित शक्ति का प्रतीक था, and the people have destroyed that symbol of king's power. And the stone fragments have told that people carried with them that we defeated the king. And after that, after 14th of July 1789, there was a riots all over the Paris. Not only Paris, all over the country, even the rural areas, there were riots. And all then this is the beginning of the chain reaction. Storming of Bastille was the beginning of the chain reaction, which ultimately resulted into the execution of the king. The king was beheaded, the king was killed, and king and the queen both were killed. And we can say that this was the formal beginning of the French Revolution. 14th of July 1789 can be termed as the formal beginning of the French Revolution. Now at that time, people, why did they fight? People fight for food. They were not able to get food. Food was not in the market. As a result, there was a very less supply and high demand. Prices rose up. Poor people could not buy it. Poor people not able to buy. So they fought among themselves, and the king was not doing anything for them. So riots started everywhere, and this ultimately resulted in the death of king. When we see in the past, now we can see this is the beginning of the French Revolution. This is the chain of reaction started. But now we need to go back. Now even go much deeper. Don't restrict to 14th of July. We'll go even much earlier to 14th of July 1789. So where would we go? We'll go to the accession of the king. Accession means ascendance. Ascendance means Rajyabhishek. Now, Louis XVI became the King of France in 1774. Here I have not mentioned the date. Here it is 1774. Louis XVI became the King of France in 1774 when he was just 20 years old. Then he married Mary Antoinette. He married Mary Antoinette, who was the Princess of Austria. Again, listen carefully. Not Australia, it's another country. She was the Princess of Austria. And after becoming the king, Louis XVI came to know that he was unlucky. Why unlucky? Because the French treasury was empty. France was a powerful country at the time, one of the richest country also at that time. But in reality, now Louis XVI came to know that the French treasury was empty. Now the question is, why was the treasury empty? There are certain reasons. We'll see these basic reasons for the French treasury being empty. Number one, prolonged war. Lamba war. With whom? Prolonged war with England. England and France were the arch enemies. They are the historical enemies. Even if you go much back, we can go to 1066. From this event is known as the Norman Conquest. Forget about this, much deeper. But these two countries were fighting against each other to expand their colonies. They were the rivals of each other, and this rivalry have often brought them face to face, and they were the enemies. Years, prolonged years. There was a 100 years war also fought between these two countries. So these were the historical enemies, and this drained the financial resources of France. The second reason was life in the royal court of France. Luxurious life. All the king was not living alone. Obviously, kings never live alone. They even not only live with their families, but they live with their ministers, their big army officials, and lots of people live with the king. And the life in the royal palace was sumptuous, extravagant life. Lots of money was wasted on the lifestyle of the people who were living in the France, and that expense was so much that it created pressure on the French treasury, French khazana, treasury khazana. Then helping 13 US colonies, as we already discussed in the point 1, England and France, they were the arch enemies. England was one of the richest country again, and a lot of money England was earning from North America. Today the country we know as United States of America. That country once was not a one country, it was a group of 13 small colonies, 13 small countries, and all those 13 countries were colonized by England, and England was earning lots of money from them. And these 13 colonies were fighting against England to get themselves free, exactly the way the Indians fought against the Britishers for the independence. So those 13 colonies also fought for the independence against England. And obviously, France saw an opportunity to help those 13 colonies to get themselves free from the British rule. Of course, England was also earning lots of money from them. So France helped those 13 colonies. Already France had the loan of 2 billion livres. Livres is the currency of France at that time. Present currency of France is, you tell me, write in the comment, what's the present currency of France? Okay, I'll tell you, it's euro. It was already France burdened with 2 billion livres loan, and this helped to the 13 American colonies, North American colonies, created a burden of loan by 1 billion. It's a big amount. And finally, all this amount England had to, France had to repay the loans, and interest was 10%. 10% interest was charged on the government, and the French government, whatever earning, a larger share of the income of the French government was went in given in repaying the loan. All these are the four major reasons that the French treasury was empty. Now, kings cannot survive without money. Kings just don't have to see to their bread and butter. They don't have to see about their home, shelter, and food, all that. Kings are the responsible people. They need money for lots of work. Why do they need money? Of course, they have to maintain their long army and the royal court. They cannot live like we common people live. They have to live a king-size life because they are not individual. They are the representative of their country to the world. So their lifestyle would be expensive and have to be expensive. And again, the maintenance of army, upgraded weapons. Even there, when your enemy is a country like England, you need to be upgraded now. You cannot be relaxed here. Again, they need to run universities and several other government departments. And now Louis XVI did not see any other source of income, and income that too in a large quantity. There was only one option left, and of course that option was the favorite option of many governments when they are in desperate need of money: increase the taxes. Even in the present world, governments often increase money when increase taxes when they need money. So increasing tax was only option. But I think even this did not have solved the problem of France. So why? We'll see. The reason is old regime. What is old regime? In detail about the old regime, we will be studying in the next video. Otherwise, the video would go very lengthy if we discuss that here. What is old regime? Old regime was the structure of the French society before the revolution. Because after revolution, the structure of the French society was changed. As of now, I can tell you only that in 6th standard you have studied about Indian social structure earlier. That is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Varna Vyavastha. It was something similar, of course not exactly, somewhat similar in France also. So that is old regime, when the French society was also arranged in stair-like situation, classes, top class, second class, third class, in that way. That's old regime, and that started from Middle Ages. What is Middle Ages? The time of period time when from the 5th century AD to the 15th century AD, मतलब सन 500 से लेके सन 1500 के बीच का जो समाज माना जाता है यूरोप में, that's called old Middle Ages. So this kind of society developed that during that time in France, and this social structure would not have helped king. Why? We'll see in the next video. This is where we come to end here. So what have we studied so far in this video? Storming of Bastille was a landmark event in the French Revolution. Immediate reason for the storming of Bastille was shortage of food. Now what is the significance? It was people's victory over the king that we have seen. Bastille was a symbol of king's despotic power, and the symbol of king's power was destroyed. Then Louis XVI became the king of France at the age of 20 in 1774. Then he married to the Austrian princess Mary Antoinette, and when he became the king, he saw the French treasury was empty for some reasons. Which are those reasons? Prolonged war with England, then extravagant life in the Palace of Versailles, then huge burden of loan, and all these reasons we have seen. And why king needed to refill the treasury, all that we have seen. In the next video, we'll see the French society during the old regime. I hope you understood this story, and if you have not understood, if there is any doubt, anything, you can comment in the comment section. I'll definitely answer your doubts. As of now, thank you so much. We will meet you again soon with the second video. Goodbye.